So it's 3 a.m. and I am wide awake with postpartum insomnia, and I have fallen down an internet rabbit hole. And that's when I noticed something that nobody is talking about. Why would a CEO take a demotion? And not one CEO, but three of them. Three of the most successful women in Silicon Valley, all running billion-dollar companies, have all voluntarily gave up their titles to work for Sam Altman. What does OpenAI know that we don't? Let me be clear about what I'm sharing here. This is not just a story about how Sam Altman hired three of the most successful women in the Valley, although that is totally worth talking about. But there is a deeper reason for the story. Women in influential positions in AI might be a crucial factor for a long-term AI alignment. But before we get to that, let me introduce you to each of these women. First up, Fidji Simo. Fiji spent nearly a decade at Facebook, where she rose from product manager to running the entire Facebook mobile app. That is a product used by 2.4 billion people. She oversaw a team of over 6,000 employees and led the development of Facebook Live, Facebook Watch, and the autoplay video format that fundamentally changed how we consume content online. The jury is still out on whether that's a good thing. In 2021, she left Meta to become CEO of Instacart. 2 years later, she took the company public on the Nasdaq at a $10 billion valuation, breaking a 20-month tech IPO drought. In May 2025, Sam Altman hired her and created a role that had never existed before: CEO of Applications. She now runs product, business, and engineering across all of OpenAI's consumer-facing products, including ChatGPT. Think about that. The person who scaled one of the most used apps in human history, then built an IPO to a major tech company, is now the person deciding how the most powerful AI on the planet gets put into your hands. Next, we have Denise Dresser. Denise spent over 14 years at Salesforce, rising to president of accelerated industry sales. She built and scaled some of the largest enterprise deals in the company's history. And then in November 2023, she became CEO of Slack. She focused on integrating AI tools into Slack and positioning it as a platform where AI agents could help workers move faster. In December 2025, she left Slack to join OpenAI as its first ever chief revenue officer. Her job? Turn ChatGPT from a product that people love into a revenue engine that can sustain the most expensive technology project on Earth. Finally, we have Sarah Friar. Sarah grew up in a small town in Northern Ireland. She studied economics at Oxford, got her MBA at Stanford, and then spent over a decade at Goldman Sachs. After Goldman, she became SVP of Finance and Strategy at Salesforce before landing the role that would define her career: CFO of Square. She led the company's IPO in 2015 and added $30 billion in market capitalization. From there, she became CEO of Nextdoor and grew the social network to nearly 88 million users. She was even awarded an OBE by Queen Elizabeth for services to entrepreneurship. And then in June 2024, OpenAI brought her in as their first CFO. Her job? Navigate the most complex corporate restructuring in Silicon Valley history, converting the nonprofit into a $300 billion company. She closed OpenAI's $40 billion funding round, the largest private tech raise on record, and oversaw the creation of a restructured entity that includes a $130 billion nonprofit endowment. By the way, that is larger than Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, and MIT combined. When asked about the scale of what she's building, she said, "It's more like building the railroads or electricity than anything I've seen before." So let's sit with this for a second. Fidji Simo left as CEO of Instacart, Denise as CEO of Slack, Sarah as CEO of Nextdoor, and none of them became CEO at OpenAI. In a world where titles are currency, three of the most accomplished women in tech voluntarily traded theirs in. There's a famous line from Eric Schmidt, then chairman of Google, to Sheryl Sandberg when she was considering leaving Google for a tiny startup called Facebook. He said, "If someone offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you don't ask what seat. You just get on." These three women didn't ask what seat, they just got on. And that tells you everything about how big they believe the moment is. These are not people who need OpenAI on their resume. They came because they believe AI is the most consequential technology of our lifetime, and they want to be the ones shaping how it reaches the world. But here's the thing that people keep missing about this story. Sam Altman didn't hire three women for optics. He hired three women because the data has been screaming this for years, and most of Silicon Valley has been way too stubborn to listen. And by the way, this is far from the beginning of the stratospheric rise of women in AI. Daniela Amodi has been making waves since she co-founded Anthropic, now valued at $380 billion. OpenAI's ex-CTO Mira Murati has gone on to build her own company. And let's not forget about the startups sprouting from Google's former head of AI, Fei-Fei Li, former Anthropic leader Andy Peng, and of course Dropbox leader Kanjun Kui. S&P Global Research found that in the 2 years following a female CEO appointment, companies saw a 20% stock price bump over those that appointed men, and women-led companies in the S&P 500 have dramatically outperformed their male-led counterparts over the last decade. But as of 2025, women only lead about 11% of the Fortune 500, and the talent pool is absurdly deep. Still, I think there is an even deeper story here that goes beyond the numbers. Geoffrey Hinton, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist who quit Google to warn us about the technology they helped create, said something last year that stuck with me. He said AI will surpass human intelligence, and that the only model we have of a more powerful intelligence choosing to protect a less powerful one is a mother and child. Therefore, he believes that AI must be maternal. If he's right, and I think he is, then the question of who builds AI and what they value is not a nice to have. It's actually the whole game. The women leading AI right now aren't leading because they're women, they're leading because they bring something unique that the industry has been missing: the instinct to build things that don't just scale, but actually elevate humanity. Now, as a VC, I spend my days writing checks into the future of technology. I sit across the table from the founders building it, I elevate the companies that are shaping it, and I watch firsthand both the extraordinary promise and the terrifying uncertainty of what AI could become. But I'm also a new mom, and every night when I'm holding my son, I think about the world that he's going to grow up in. A world that is shaped by decisions being made right now, in rooms most people will never see, by people that most people will never meet. And that is why this story matters to me, because I am a mom first. The fact that the most powerful AI company on earth is putting women with proven track records in charge of how the technology gets built, sold, or financed, well, that's something that actually gives me something I don't feel very often when I think about the future. And that is hope. What do you think about OpenAI's leadership moves? Does it change how you think about the future of AI? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you want more deep dives like this, remember to subscribe. See you next week.